You're listening to the Writera Podcast, the show that helps authors share their book and fascinating stories. Here's your host, Mary Crawford.
Hey there, this is Mary from Writera. Today we are going to interview Matt Nagin to talk about his book, Notes from the Bonfire, Poems in the Age of Coronavirus. Matt, tell us about your book.
Well, first off, Happy New Year, and thank you for having me on the Writera podcast.
Thank
The
you.
book, oh, sure. The book is a collection of poems. This is my third poetry book. It also has photographs by a distinguished photographer, Andres Jersey Left, and illustrations by an up-and-coming artist of sorts, Natasha Yearwood.
Wow.
The book was written while I came down with COVID-19 in New York City in March, which, as you'll recall, was the first epicenter of the virus.
Oh, sure.
And so there was a lot of confusion, and I was sick for 5 weeks, and in a almost an altered state. There was a lot of fear and sadness and confusion, and so while everyone was quarantined as a way to process everything that was going on within myself and in the world around me, I wrote these poems and wanted to collect them in a book and make half the proceeds go to Doctors Without Borders that does some good work for COVID-19, and basically just be a way to creatively and positively respond to this pandemic.
Right. Wow. It was definitely a time of uncertainty for all of us. How did you cope aside from writing?
Well, in terms of the physical part, or do you mean psychological, or?
Oh, everything.
Oh, everything. Well, physically, I was on 2 different inhalers. I got steroids. At one point, I had to go to the emergency room because my breathing was really having a hard time. But, it was only for a night. And, so supplements, antibiotic, a bunch of things. But in terms of psychologically, I was living in New York City in this very small apartment where I've lived for a while, which normally is, not a problem, but during a lockdown, it could be very isolating, very, I felt a little like Jack Nicholson in The Shining. So my parents were in Florida at the time, so I fled to their house on Long Island, which was empty at the time, and stayed there. And that was a good place to recuperate and sort of, by myself, and just rest and have soup and watch the news and just, try to make the best of it.
Right. And the good thing is you were able to write this book and sounds very intriguing. Tell me about the highlight of this book.
Well, the book, that's a tricky question because it's sort of a collection of different topics, but there is a lot on the pandemic. I mean, I don't know if there was one highlight per se, but I think, I think one thing that makes the book unique is that it was a collaboration between three people who were affected by the pandemic, because Natasha as well, you know, she got the coronavirus. I ended up getting it twice later on.
Shoot. Okay.
But so, and then Andres, you know, a known photographer, and affected his business and affected his whole way of life.
Okay.
So I think all being New York City residents and all having that that first experience of the chaos that was wrought on the city, you know, gives it a unique flavor, a kind of a rawness. Okay,
right.
so I think if you want to say one thing unique about this book, some other books maybe, not that it's not edited, it is, but you know, some other books I'm very painstaking about everything I put down. But this book, I didn't want to change too much off what I wrote, because I wanted to be true to the spirit of what I was feeling in that moment,
Absolutely.
that time capsule thing. So I think it's a good representative of what someone is thinking as this was going on and as he's suffering from COVID-19.
Okay. Now, since this seems to be something that would probably touch people's heart or maybe move us in a different way, would you be interested to read some parts that might entice the readers to really go ahead and grab it?
Sure. I could read one of the poems, and it may be a little sad in the regard to, well, it's a sad topic. Not all of them are quite this dark, but you know, but it's also a representative of, you know, every day we see these counts, these totals of the lives lost, and it's hard to get a sense of what that means. It's so overwhelming, you know, and what does it mean to you know, all these debates about, you know, the economy versus lives and all that.
Sure.
So based on all that, I wrote a poem called "The Dead," which I'll share with you if that's good now.
Go ahead.
The dead are our friends, smoldering, pouring like lava from the apertures in the earth, creaking, the desperate yawls, the miserable, wretched twisting of bones. They line up the cemeteries, are poured under the hot cement, tombstones as far as the horizon, crematoriums pumping out mountains of ashes. Our friends, our beloved, those we trusted, those we planned to have over the house for goddamn tea. Oh, dear friends, lost in the scourge, forgotten, piled up, reduced to a number. Productivity, they say. Stock market up. Liberty, they say. Individual rights. Don't you hear them twisting, creaking, begging through the lid of the coffin? Save me, they say. Reach out and offer a life raft. But the money machine rolls on and no one gives a damn. Everyone too quickly forgets how precious it was, how valuable, how important really to have such friends.
Okay. Well, sounds really moving. And I was wondering, have you written all poems in your lifetime as an author?
Have I written all the poems?
Have you written, sorry to cut you off also. So it seems to me that you're more into writing poems. Have you written other genres aside from poems for your book?
Oh, I see. Yes. As a matter of fact, I would say my primary writing methodology, if there was one, would probably be comedy. I come from the stand-up comedy background. I do have a humor book out with an indie publisher. It's called "Do Not Feed the Clown." Last year, and that's a very different, you know, tone than this book, obviously.
Right.
but it's about pop culture and satire.
Mm-hmm.
34 short pieces, humorous pieces. Some of them were previously published.
Mm-hmm.
And, right now I'm working on a comedic sci-fi novel. I'd say most of my writing actually is in the comedy area.
Mm-hmm.
And I have this other book of comedic stories from my life that I'm hoping to put out. So yeah, so I do, I guess poetry is like another side of me. It's a little more serious side mostly, although some of my poems actually are humorous, not that one. But,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I think I write, and I also write some essays, and I kind of write across genres, although mostly I would say if you had to narrow it down, it would just be creative writing, whether it's fiction or poetry,
Mm-hmm.
are my primary, interest. I should say also I wrote a film that was in some film festivals, like a comedic film one,
Oh,
some awards.
wow.
So short film, but I've have some other scripts out there and whatever. So yeah, I guess I write a different areas, but it's all in the creation and all in the
Mm-hmm.
imaginary realm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How long have you been writing?
Been writing a very long time. I mean, I'm 43 now. The
Mm-hmm.
first time I ever wrote anything creative was 16 years old.
Oh.
So it's quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
But poetry was what I started with,
Mm-hmm.
sort of like my first love,
Mm-hmm.
and then I will put that down and come back to that.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, so in some sense, writing for all those years, and so, but
Mm-hmm.
I do feel that I've taken it. Also, this pandemic has given me opportunity to focus more on some projects and complete them, which has been a blessing in disguise.
I see.
So, that's been great.
Yeah, sounds like it. And since um, this time around, we are still in pandemic mode. Oh, what other things that you do to sustain yourself? Do you have another job? Anything that
Yes,
you're busy?
well, yes, I do. I do work with this company. They pay me to blog and to moderate comments on their site. So I
Okay.
have a job of sorts working with them. I
Mhm.
also have the you know academic academic background, although temporarily I have taken a break from teaching right now. But yeah, for many
Oh.
years I taught college writing, 15 years,
Oh,
and
wow.
then also an actor, although
Oh,
that's kind of shut down right now. But
right.
actor,
Mm-hmm. Sounds
yes.
like you're a very talented person. You've done a lot. Anything else that you do that the readers might be interested to know more about you, your hobbies, etc.
Well, an interesting tidbit about me, you can check out. Well, you can always learn more on my website and
Mm-hmm.
mattnagin.com.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, one interesting tidbit, if you're interested about me, is I do have Crohn's disease, so I've been involved with that charity, and I even made a rap around Crohn's disease, so uh, like a humorous rap,
Mm.
and I and interrelated with that, I just giving you some oddball things about me as an actor. For
Mm.
whatever reason, I've been in a lot of those crime shows, those reenactors. You ever see like on the ID channel, Investigation Discovery? They have these murderers and various other things.
Oh,
So
wow.
if
You've
you
done
turn on one
that?
of those shows, you may see me.
Wow.
Yes.
So that must mean that the book that you've written really comes from a very imaginative, creative, and phenomenal writer, it seems like.
Well, thank you for saying that. I certainly hope so. I
Mhm.
work hard on the writing. I love writing. That's my first passion.
Mhm.
And, I just, hope others can appreciate or can get something from this work that I put out there. And also, if anyone wants to collaborate or talk to me or get advice from my perspective, I'm always open to trying to help others out there.
Well, that's good news to anyone who would like to maybe write their first book or join you in other stuff that you're doing right now. Because it's always good to collaborate and make wonderful stories and poems together.
Absolutely. In fact, the rap video I did, I worked with this buddy of mine who's made a lot of rap. So I was coming from a different angle. He did more serious rap, and I'm coming from my humor angle. And I found, since coming from totally different worlds, that it was a nice collaboration. People enjoyed it. So that I agree that when you work with people outside your normal sphere, interesting things can happen.
Absolutely. We are so glad to have you because it seems like you have so much to offer to our audience and your readers. And lastly, saying that though, I want to ask who has inspired you to write this way? Your creative influences.
Well, probably one of the earliest influences in terms of the poetry, although I don't keep up anymore so much, but was actually Jim Morrison, the lead singer of The Doors. I love that kind of hallucinatory, imaginative poetry and imagery. So that was like one of the things that got me into it. And then as I got older, other writers, Emily Dickinson, William Blake, Bukowski, there's many influences with poetry. And then in terms of comedy, someone like Woody Allen just always inspired me because he creates so many projects, and he does the writing, the directing, and so yeah, I have lots of different influences, but I love artists that put it out there and share their ideas and just break the mold in some way. That's what always stood out to me. If they can sort of play against the rules or do something different, because that's what it's all about in the end. Finding a unique voice or unique way to approach things.
And it's something really interesting to get to know more of when it's something new. It's fresh. It's intriguing to know more of.
Definitely, that you get some. Sometimes you read a writer who really speaks to you, and it's like the words leap off the page, and it's almost like they're there with you in the room because they see through things that others don't. And that's the power of a book that, maybe readers a lot now, they just want to sit on Netflix, and Netflix is great too. But, the thing with a book is that it can cut deeper, I think, a lot of times and have more resonance,
I agree. And it puts you in a focused and really concentrated mood, which is a good thing because it makes you think deeply about what the person is trying to tell you. Yeah.
Definitely. And then it leaves some room for the imagination,
Oh
which is
yeah.
the great thing, because you don't know. Sometimes I always like to read a novel sometimes before I see the movie of it, because sometimes if I see the movie, I can't get the movie images out of my head. And
Oh, okay.
if you get what I mean. So I
I
like
get.
to imagine it myself first,
You should. You have. Do you ever see yourself producing movies?
Well, I did do this one short film, and that did get some awards and things on the film festival circuit. It's not. I'm trying to get it on Amazon. I haven't gotten to that yet, but I'm gonna look to do that. That's called Inside Job. In case you want to see about that, you can find it through my website. But I have another script or two, yes, that I'm in contact with this producer in India that's interested in this project that I have, and I have some other scripts. They're in the works if they can come through. But yes, I would love to, make movies and that sort of thing. If I can make it happen, that would be great.
Because it looks like it's the field that you would be most successful with, and it's good to know that for the readers as well, that you have this really imaginative, creative, and unique flair of the way you write, the way you think and process things. So tell us, where will the readers find this book about coronavirus and the poems that you've written from it?
Oh, right. So the book is called Notes from the Bonfire,
Mm-hmm.
and the book is available on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
Just look up Notes from the Bonfire. My last name is Nagin, Nagin, and you can also find it through my website, which is myname@nagin.com. You can go to find me on Instagram. Nagin, please, is my hashtag. And and I have a lot of other books, 3 other poetry books out there, as well as the humor book, Do Not Feed the Clown. And so you can find those works there. And if you do get to read it, leave a review. I love when readers leave a review and let me know, because that helps other people find it, and it's spreading around. And we always love to see what people's feedback is,
Yeah, and the review makes you, I think, want to be a better writer, or maybe want to share more about what is inside your mind to people.
Exactly. So, poetry is really a labor of love. It's not likely to be on the bestseller list. And, there's only a certain audience for it. But, if you're passionate about it, you've got to do it. And that is always my advice to other writers. You got to sometimes listen to the voice inside of you. And maybe that will lead you to other projects or other things. We're being led in certain directions sometimes. We think we're the directors of this film called our life, but actually a lot of times we're just bit players in the bigger drama.
Right. Somebody told me that poetry is the history of the human soul. But for you, Matt, what do you think is poetry?
Well, poetry, I almost say it's whatever you want it to be. I think poetry is freedom. Poetry is exploration. Poetry is finding the words to
Express
or to transcend. It's like anything. It's so broad, because anything that exceeds what you expect, anything that, I forgot the name of the individual, but he said poetry is a sonnet, he said it actually, is a moment's monument, which I thought was interesting. So it sort of captures that moment. It embodies it. Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I think that's good. And, anything that can, I always go back to that line. I think it was Auden who said that the hourglass whispers to the lion's paw. And that embodies what poetry is about, because there's so much in that little statement, and it's all metaphor. But, but it says so much more. And that's what poetry is. It's a condensed form of a heightened reality that the reader can experience.
It's like an art, but in a written form. An artwork. Right. Well, wow. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. It's been great having you and learning so much about you. And I can't wait to get a copy of your book too. Sounds like something I would really enjoy.
Well, thank you very much for having me as a guest. I look forward to listening, and I appreciate it. And I will definitely be tuning into more from Writera.
Yes, please. And we also look forward to um, send a review for the book because I'll be reading that soon. And for the next, for the readers who will be interested to learn more about Matt and to read the book, kindly check out Amazon, his Instagram page, and his website. We will note that down on the Writera website as well. It was great having you, Matt.
Thank you very much, Mary. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye now.
Thanks for listening to the Writera podcast. To learn more about today's guest or the key takeaways from this episode, visit www.writeramagazine.com.